Okay, good morning. Oops, my camera's weird. All right, good morning, everybody. Let me make sure. It looks like audio is up. And let's make sure both platforms are actually working. There is YouTube. Excellent. Facebook. Mute. There we go. All right, awesome. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Scott and Sherry. Thanks for joining today. All right, so my name is Samantha Mirabal. I'm doing our Design Shop Talk today. See what questions you have. I had very few questions sent in, so I'm going to tell you that right up front. If you have questions, type them in the chat. Don't send them privately. I don't tend to see those until long after we're done. So type them in on the chat, and I'll see what I can get answered for you. So let's see. Is there a feature that will generate automatic walk stitches from element to element of the same color? For instance, oh, Yvonne, thank you. I'm so glad I'm helpful. I try. All right, so this one, basically this person says, hey, I got two elements that's like wings on a bird, and I want to have the running stitches connecting them to minimize trims all connected. So how do we do that? All right, so let's take a look. I'm gonna draw something that doesn't really look like a bird, but I can draw it quickly. So we're gonna pretend that's a wing. It's more like a bunny ear. Ooh, I'm gonna draw a bunny ear. All right, so copy, paste. That's Control C, Control V, and then I'm gonna mirror it, move it over. All right, drawing a goofy looking bunny here, but it was supposed to be a bird. We're morphing it. All right, and now I'm gonna draw a circle over it and make that another thing. Okay, so what did we just do? All right, so if I update my auto trims, you'll see I've got a trim between there. So the question was, how do I make this connect to that with a running stitch rather than having to do it all by myself? So there's the auto sequence feature. I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called? Yes, auto sequence. Okay, so if you hold the start stop button down, so first off, you got to select everything. All right, hold this guy down, go to the start stop sequence, and if you use that, you'll notice it put a walk stitch in. Okay, so it's as simple as that. It will automatically look at it and go, oh, hey, those are underneath something, so it did a running stitch from one to the other and now got rid of that trim. So that's how you do it, right? So there is also, I know I showed you guys this last week, but I'll show it again. So if you want it to automatically move your starts and stop around, so you're kind of paying attention, elements are overlapping, but you want your starts and stops to connect, there's this guy right here, auto closest point. So that will automatically, so if I did this, right? So I started here, I stopped there, so that shows the propeller. But now if I come over here and do another guy, notice it moved where this element stopped to up there. So that propeller was way down here, but now it's there. So it will automatically rearrange all of that for you if you've got this. All right, so that's a time-saving feature right there, where you can just, again, notice where the propeller is. It's over on the right-hand side. But now I draw this guy. See, it moved it from here to there. So it's automatically rearranging my starts and stops. So that, again, is something you can do. You can also, of course, if it didn't already do that, let's say you had that turned off, you can go auto sequence and it will do that for you again. So it'll rearrange and move all your starts and stops appropriately, do running stitches as necessary and things like that. So that's kind of, I don't know what that was, sideways E. Anyway, so it's that, yes. The software will automatically create those stitches, helping you minimize your trims. It's just a matter of using that auto sequence tool. Okay. Fruit first, Corbin. Yay. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Okay. Is there an easy way to merge multiples of the same design to stitch one step at a time instead of running through each design one at a time? No, because it's not a really good practice to do that. So you're... All right, let me back this up. Can you rearrange things so that, let's say you're sewing a hoop full of patches, right? So I'm going to go draw a hoop full of stuff. All right, so let's say we've got a circle and a border on it. And I did that really quick. Did you guys see how it was done? Probably not, since I used a hotkey on my keyboard. So let's do it again. I did the complex fill. I used the circle tool. Left click, I held the shift key down and moved my mouse. That locked it to be a perfect circle. Okay. Now that I hit escape, so that is selected. Now if I hold my shift key down and click on single line, shift is add, control is replace. So shift click adds that border, or it basically adds a single line center in the shape of my of whatever I had selected. All right. So we're going to just do that, right? So if I take this guy and I'm going to rearrange, I want it so multiple times. All right. So while you can do it like this, right? It's color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2, and it will sew that way as you go through the design. But let's say you don't want to program 16 colors, so you wanted to sort it where it does all the blue and then all the green. Overall, that's not a good practice to have it to get into, because what ends up happening is, remember, embroidery shifts, right? So you've got that effect where as it's sewing, your columns shrink and it pushes in the other way. So push-pull effect, right? So it's pushing and it's pulling. So it pulls in, it pushes out, right? Because of that, you increase your risk of having alignment issues if you do all this fill and then come back and try to do all the borders. It'll work great for a few of them, and then by the time everything's shifted around a lot, the more sewing you do, all the registration is going to start to be off. So the better practice is to get into doing finish as you go, right? So you sew a design, you sew its border, sew an area, sew its border, and you just work through sewing out, finishing as you go. That's the best practice to get into. But let's say you don't want to program 16 color changes. Well, it's repeating. So all you actually have to do when you go into the software is the color sequence. So that design had 16. All you have to do is program 2, because it's the same 2 colors that repeat. All right. So let's say you had a black and white, like a black and white design. It was going to sew white, then black the entire time. All right. You don't have to come over here and go white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black until you get to 100. You can do white, black, apply OK. And so you only have 2 colors programmed. I'm pointing at my monitor. I'm sorry. So you only have 2 colors programmed here, but that it will continue to repeat those over and over and over until it gets to the end of the design. Okay. So it's super easy just to let it do that and so along. Good morning. Thanks for joining. All right. Let's see what else. All right. So yeah, otherwise what you would do is hold control key down, select all these guys. So let's say, even, it's going to sew fine. So you can select all those, and then right here, auto merge. All I did was select them all, drag them down, and hit auto merge. This is not something I would suggest doing, simply because it increases your risk for registration errors. Okay. All right. So let's see. I think those were actually the only questions that I was sent in ahead of time, was the auto sequence and merging. What other questions did you guys have? I think I get more questions when I ask them 2 days in advance rather than 1, so I'll go back to doing that. Can you turn alphabets into cross stitch? I don't know. I haven't tried it. Let's see. It's always fun trying things on the fly. How would I do that? I think I would convert this to a vector. Operations, convert to vector, take that, operations, change element type. It's not there. Okay. That didn't do it. So I don't think you can. I think you have to draw it. So if I came and did the cross stitch, I think I would then just come over here. Oops. All right, so then I would just draw and color in my letter. I'll ask around and see if that's the best way to do this, but I think we can also, I remember what I could do. the line tool. So I could do it this way too. Huh, that's cool. And then I can insert a hole. So yeah, I could do it that way. Well, I guess I have to erase it. Anyway, I'm clicking the wrong buttons. You can tell I use this one a lot. But yeah, so that would do it. But it's not automatic. What files are compatible with Melco? All the files is what I want to say. Let me go find the list for you because there's like 50 of them. Melco service, I think it's up here. File. If not, it's in the manual. Let's see, supported file types. All right, so I went to Melco-service. Let's see. Yep, it's in the manual. There you go. There's the full list in the manual. So there's a whole lot of them that it will take. Remember, some of these, there's only a few that are wireframe based, but there are others that save color information. DST, EXP do not save color information within the file itself. The PES file does, Jeff does, Hus does, Art does, the EMBs do. So they don't all save color information. What's the difference in the cap frames? Is there one better than the other? That's a loaded question right there, Sherry. So you've got the 270 cap frame, goes all the way around, and it's the one that has the band. I've been into shops that people swear they can't hoop anything with that hoop. I can hoop pretty much any hat with that in about 20 seconds. So I think it comes down to practice, right? And what you're doing. So the 270 cap, the one that's the band that goes all the way around, it lets you sew a very large field all the way around. So not just the front of the hat, but the sides as well. That frame takes a little practice to get used to. I thought it was really easy to learn, but you know, it's just practice, right? And the other thing is that one has 2 bars on the back. If you make the stabilizer reach all the way around bar to bar, you will have much better success because you are able to use the clips that clip the hat to those bars as well as the stabilizers to the bar. And that way it's nice and secure because as with all things embroidery, the stiller it is, the more secure you hoop it, the better it's going to sew out. Now, if all you're doing is the front of a cap, you know, they have the front of cap frame, the conventional cap frame, I think is what it's called. And then there's also the Gen 2, which used to be the Dream frame. All of those are ones that just let you sew the fronts, and they're very effective at what they do. Those you can use the pre-cuts. You know, I like the 270 because it gives me, I can do whatever I want. The VP3 is, so Yvonne asked, can the VP3 be added to upgrade for Husqvarna Viking? The Husqvarna Vikings can also use the VIPs as well as the Hus. And I believe my old one used to be able to use the DST as well. The VP3 is a proprietary format that they don't give much detail on, so I don't believe that's something that can be added. Let's see. What else? But anyway, Sherry, to your hat frame, it comes down to your personal preferences. Do I have a cutaway favorite? A cutaway favorite for hats? I use tearaway for hats. So I'll use, and I am not picky about hats as far as what stabilizer to use. I always go with whatever the absolute heaviest tearaway I can find that comes in a roll, you know, the cap frame rolls. So if I go on whatever site I happen to be on, whether it be, you know, Auto Caps or Madeira or pick your poison, right? Whichever website you like to buy from, I literally look at the ounce of it and go to whatever the heaviest is. So if they make a 3 ounce, I'll buy a 3 ounce tearaway. If the largest they make is 2.5, I'll buy that. I go for whatever the heaviest tearaway is on the site I happen to be buying from. I haven't noticed much different between using any of them. So I just go with whatever's heaviest. So that's preferably over 2 ounces. I don't tend to enjoy working with the 1 to 1.5 ounce tearaways. I don't like them. That's a personal preference. I will tell you that right away. That's all me. I just don't like them. I tend to do really heavy stitch designs. So I like more stabilizer rather than less. All right. What other questions? Did I miss any? I'm going to scroll back up. File types. We got that over here. Cap frames. I pontificated about that. Cutaways, tearaways. Okay, any other questions before I log off for the day? Oh. Delete. There we go. No, I don't want to save it. Anything else? Mine, please. What did you ask? Did I miss a question from you? Corbin, Fruit First Corbin, I don't see a question typed in. I see, thank you for providing this platform from you, and that was it. Let me go look on the actual website. So you are on YouTube. Let me go to YouTube and see if it just didn't come through. Yeah, I don't see any questions on YouTube either. So it's not coming through. Can you type again? Yeah, the only Okay. For Corbin, I don't see your question. If you can retype it, that'd be cool. All right. Yvonne asks, when doing a hat, how do we get the lettering to go straight with the brim and not curve? So that's a matter of hooping, right? So the keys to that are to make sure your hat is straight and hooped well. If you bend, so the things I always do is make sure you bend the brim. So instead of nice curved, you bend it flat as it can be, because that's going to pull the hat curved, right? So you really want that seam that the brim is attached to be nice and flat, because when you put it up in the hat, okay. Sorry, Corbin, I see you asked about the Melco XL Mighty Hoop causing severe hoop burn suddenly after a year. Okay, I'll have to, didn't see that it typed anywhere, but I'll talk about that in a sec. All right, so with the hats, bend it so it's nice and flat. When you push it into the gauge as you're hooping it, make sure that the brim is up against the little alignment thing, and that the entire seam is in that groove. I don't have a hat hoop sitting here. Let me see if I can find a picture of one to show you. Melco. Where's the hat? Is the hoop here too? I just want a picture of the hoop. Nope, not that. Hat hoop. Sorry, I just want to get a picture of the hoop. Hooping overview. Maybe this one? Oh, there you go. This will do. All right. So you got this thing right here, right? So there's these teeth on the frame itself. And this is what I was saying. Make sure the brim of the hat is touching up against there. And then right between those teeth and where this thing overlaps, there's a little channel. You want the brim of the hat to be down in there all the way around. So if it's popped out of that groove, then your lettering's going to go crooked. Okay, so that's really the key to it, is to making sure the seam of the hat is right along that entire thing, nice and straight, because then your lettering will go straight. All right, hopefully that helps. All right, the Melco XL Mighty Hoop causing severe hoop burn after a year. I don't know, your arms might be bent, right? So if the arms are bent, or you're sewing something that's really heavy, it could be dragging on the arm, causing more friction there. So you might look at the arms and see if they're bent down. more than they should be, that might be something to look at. Yvonne, with the hat, yes, this digitizing is straight. You just need to make sure your hat is also hoop straight, because if that seam is out and it's curved, your lettering will go straight, but it will end up looking curved on the hat because it's straight relative to a curved brim. But Corbin, I think the hoops don't just magically start doing it without changes, right? So if it wasn't doing it before, I would look for something that changed, whether it's you're using thicker garments, if the hoop arms that hold the hoop are bent down, right? So if they're applying, then you get more pressure on the garment itself, causing friction. So those are probably where I would look personally. Brenda asks, fonts, how do we know they're new in the list? Star by them? No. Stars include, no, that's not how. They're not actually identified as new. You just have to see them new. So yes, all the new fonts are starred, but stars are really what changed from V9 to V10, when all the fonts were redigitized. I think it was 9 to 10. I'm fairly certain. It might have been 10 to 11. But when it went from an old style of digitizing to the new one, that's when the star came into effect. So it was basically newly digitized, and all these triangle fonts were old. Okay, so old fonts. In here, the new fonts, there's a list of them. There, those are all the new ones for 12. So, but they're not identified. They're just in the list with all the fonts that were new from before as well. The list just got longer. What makes the circle oblong? Okay, so when you go to sew circles, right? So if I go to sew a circle and it sews, right? What ends up happening is you end up with something, what can happen is you can end up with something that looks like that, right? So while it was digitized as a circle, when it sews out, you get these gaps, right? So that is occurring because of that pull effect, right? As you sew from one side of a shape to the other, it's sewing this way. Every time the needle, it stabs the fabric, it grabs the bobbin, and then it moves this way and makes another. So what's happening to the thread pulling through that hole? As the machine's moving to the right, that hole is trying to move to the right. Okay, so as it sews, all these holes are pulling on the fabric that way, okay, in this direction. Well, when it gets over here, now it's going to stab there, and now the machine's going to be going this way. So as the thread is, the machine's sewing, the hole's pulling through the thread, that hole is going to pull this way, right? So your net effect is things narrow, right? And that's why you see this. So it's a pull effect. And additionally, because it's pulling, where is that fabric going? It's going up and down this way, right? So you've got that push-pull effect going. How do you avoid that? That's going to be a combination of using appropriate stabilizers, making sure the digitizing is appropriate for what you're doing, and adding some pull compensation. So appropriate stabilizers. If you are sewing 10,000 stitches into tearaway, you can expect it to move, right? Because this tearaway isn't something that's going to hold still. It's ripping away, literally, right? Whereas if you use a heavy cutaway and you hoop really well, the fabric is not able to move as much because it's well secured and against a material that is also not going to move much, right? So that's one, is select your appropriate stabilizers for what you're doing. Okay. The next would be to make sure your digitizing is appropriate, right? So that's going to be on your underlay. So if I were to just sew this circle with a center walk, okay. So if all I did was a stitch down the middle, is that stabilizing the fabric along these edges? No, right? Yes, I did a underlay, but it secured the fabric down the center of this thing, but nowhere near these edges. So you would want to make sure you're using an appropriate underlay. Edge walk is a little bit better because now it's securing the fabric along the edge, but then it still gives the fabric room to move. So if you're unsure what underlay is best for what you're doing, right, you can always go into underlay and use auto. It will automatically set the underlay to whatever size your element is, what it thinks is appropriate for it. So that way it's, the fabric and the stabilizer are nice and tied together so that when your top stitching comes through, it can't move a ton, right? Yes, you're going to still have those effects, but it physically can't go anywhere because you've hooped it well, you've used good stabilizers, and then you've tied the fabric to the stabilizer with that underlay. So now when the top stitching goes in, boy, I am talking with my hands today, I'm sorry. When the top stitching goes in, it can't move as much as it would want to without all that stuff. Okay, digitizing, hooping, and stabilizers. That's predominantly it, right? Oh, and then pull compensation. So we know it's going to shrink some. So you can come over and use some pull offset, and that will overstitch the shape enough a little bit so that when it shrinks, it hopefully ends up where you want it to go. I always like using pull offset rather than by percent. If I did this by percent, so let's say I did 120%. Oh my goodness, I don't have numlock on. Let's try that again. Okay, that's why I don't like percent. The pull by percent it's math based. So it's looking at the length from one side to the other and it's going, okay, let's overstitch it by a percentage. Well, the distance from that end of the wireframe to that is long versus up here, it's really short going from one end to the other. So 20% of a small number is a smaller amount of a thing. So it, in my opinion, distorts design. So I always leave this at 100. And I use this instead. What offset should you use? I don't know. I use 1 to 2 points personally. If you find yourself wanting to add 5 and 6, I would suggest redigitizing to be more appropriate for what you're working on. Corbin, there's a follow-on to what I'm talking about, and then I'll go to your question. Would the same idea apply with the underlay when doing larger fonts? Or do the fonts already account for the underlay? So no, the fonts that you use, so when you go in here, yes. All right, let me back up. The same idea applies to fonts, yes. All right, let's start there. Notice I have underlay on there. If I zoom in on that, you'll see there's a zigzag and an edge walk. So there's this edge walk here, and then there's a zigzag. I don't have anything set there, so what gives? Well, if I go into the properties, you'll notice under underlay, it's set to auto. So if you leave auto on, that will set you up, for it to give you a good starting place to work from. What you don't want to do is this. This is like the worst thing you can do, in my opinion. So with nothing, all right? Because then you're going to go straight into your top stitching. It's just not a good practice to do. So if you don't know what underlay you like, use auto. If you know exactly what works, what is perfection in your mind, you can do that. I use auto. I really like it. It works well, and it's one less thing for me to worry about. So, here's another trick. If let's say you like one particular way of doing it based on the different element sizes, and whatever's set for the current auto is not your personal style, which is fine, you can come over here on these 3 dots and make it be whatever you want. So these are the properties of what auto is actually doing. So for small elements, it's doing a center walk. For medium, or a little bit bigger than tiny, it's doing an edge walk. When it gets closer to being, wide satins, it's doing these. And then when it does fill areas, it's doing this. So, you can change all of those settings to be your personal preference. Corbin asks, is there a platform we can import fonts to DS? Well, what type of fonts are we talking? So, DesignShop can use DesignShop 11 on, so 11 and 12, can use OTF computer fonts as well as TTF, true type fonts and open type fonts. And all those is computer fonts. So whatever you can download, whatever you can get. Google fonts have a lot that have commercial usage on them, so that's cool. And they'll show up down here under true type. Okay. Oh, I modified that font. That's kind of fun. That's a new category. That's only now new to 12. That's fun. Anyway, down here are all the computer fonts that have been installed on my computer. And you can, oh, that one's cute. Well, where's lemon? I like lemon. Like this one's cute. right? So I can change this to be a font that was installed on the computer, you know, and I can use that. So there's no platform form per se, but over here we've got a little, it's linked in the comments so you can find it. But there's a way to either use OFA files. OFA are digitized specifically for DesignShop. Is there a way to show how to install? So that's not here. OTF? Let's see. TTF? There we go. There's a video on doing true type fonts. So in this video, they'll show you how to install them. But basically, you install them into the computer, close DesignShop, reopen it, and then they will pop up in that list. Okay. All right. Now, if what you're wanting to do is buy fonts that come in this magical format of a gazillion files, so let me find one. Let me go pull it off screen so rather than me navigating through everything. Where is my stuff? Things I've bought. Sorry, I have files everywhere. DE fonts. I don't know which of these are any good, but so let's say I bought this font, and which I did. It comes in a lovely 310 files, right? So let me close this stuff. No. All right. So I can open up each file individually, right? And what I'm about to show you is how you can turn these into typable fonts. All right, and I want all these letters. First off, I got to know what size this is. So this is I assume this is supposed to be a 1.5 inch letter. I'm going to call it 1.5. All right, so select it. So I did that by doing a big old box around it. Right click, save letter. All right, this is a new font. So, and what was this one called? That's a weird name. Bonobo Satin. Okay. B-O-N-O. Bonobo Satin. DST. I like to keep the name, and this is the large. Okay. All right, so I created the font. Its height is 1.5, lovely. And what letter am I doing? The capital A. So capital A, okay. All right, so I can close that one. I can, again, go save this letter, capital B. Just type in the B, all the other settings are the same, close that. Right click, save letter, lowercase a. Okay, close it. Right click, save letter as, lowercase b. Cool. So I've done 4 whole characters for you. But what's cool about that is now under, I think it's here, custom. Yep, there it is, the one I just created. It warns you that this is an expanded format one. Yes, we know. But now A, B, B, it's now typable. Right? So you can take any of the fonts that you buy that come in a lovely 310 files and quickly create your fonts for you. So my suggestion for how to do it quickly is to grab a handful, drag them onto the screen. You've got these nice little tabs that pop up and, you know, select and save. So that's the uppercase. C's look the same. So save letter, capital C. Lowercase c, so on and so forth. Lowercase c, capital D. So this is a new feature 2.12. All right, so I will preface that. This is brand new to version 12, and it's awesome if these are the fonts you like to buy. It makes them all typable. There is one little thing you do need to be aware of. Let me go do that letter to show you. For instance, a lowercase g. Things that have descenders. So let's do a lowercase. That's an uppercase g. Where's the lowercase? There it is. All right, so let's do the lowercase g. So right click, save letter, lowercase g. Okay, so now if I go back over here and I use that same font and A, B, and I'm gonna do a lowercase g. Notice, is that where a G belongs? No, right? So you've got to move it. So if you select the letter, hold it, drag it down to where you want it to go. So let's say that's where you like it height-wise. So that was holding the control. Now if I just right click and say save letter, now every time I go to use that G or type more G's, they will show up where they belong. Okay, so that's the only thing you've got to pay attention to is the letters with descenders. You'll have to save over them once you fix them to be where you want them to be. All right, can you do a simple design for stitching on a quilt? Does it always need to be continuous? No. I mean, quilting is fun, right? So it's whatever you want it to be. I've seen quilt designs be a different design in every block, you know, and that's a personal choice. You know, it's how do you want your quilt to be done? A simple design, let me open up my horsey so I can show you that one. Decorative stitches, I think I put it here. Horse. Where's my horse? Did I not copy it over to this computer yet? Gee, aw. I didn't copy it over. All right, let me go find it. Because the horse one's pretty cool. Designs, library, decoratives, horse. There it is. All right. So this is a design I did a long time ago, and specifically for continuous quilting. I was doing some bags that I wanted to basically take a whole area and have it kind of quilted across. So it's how you do your quilts patterns is really, you've got to decide what look you want to. So let's say you want to have a different pattern for each square. All right, you would just design and draw out whatever you want quilting wise for that square, save it off, hoop and go. I wanted continuous, so the key to that is to making sure your starts and stops are on the same point, right? So it's on the same line. See that? So my start was there, my end was here. I drew that just using my walk stitch. And then I could take this guy, right click, save custom shape, put it as a decorative horse. Okay, and now, oops, if I do, you can do it a few ways, right? I can come over to decoratives and tell it to be horse, and it will repeat my pattern, okay? But decoratives are more powerful than that, right? So I can do an entire region. So take a fill region, come over here, tell it to be a decorative, and make it decorative horsey. Where are you? Yeah, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, horse. Okay, so I can make that whole area be the horse. Change its stitch direction. Oops. So they run that way. And let's say I don't like how they're positioned relative to each other. Well, I can play with these to move them around, make them overlap, move the position of the horses relative to each other. It is so cool. Yeah, I agree. This is like, I've often said I love decoratives on these talks because I use them a lot because they are so darn cool and they're so powerful, right? So you can do regions, you can do shapes. I can make that same horse pattern follow curves, right? So, I mean, it's fun. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with decoratives, and you can create your own. So I did this because imagine what I was doing is I was hooping fabric, quilting, so a batting, and then another piece of fabric. So I put the stabilizer in the middle. So I had fabric on the back, stabilizer, quilt batting, and then fabric on top, and then I sewed. So I basically made a sandwich with good fabric on the back, good fabric on the front. Stabilizer stayed because I wanted it captured, and I quilted the daylights out of it. So I created my own thing. So Gina asks, is there an easy way to find decorative stitches in File Explorer and save and share on a second computer? So you just saw my way to do it, kind of. So I have, this is my custom stuff. So when I create my own font files, when I create my own decoratives, I put them all here. These are my own designs. I've modified thread charts. I've created my own thread charts. Like these are my own thread charts that I use. So these are all my personal settings, right? So I save them into a folder that I call DS Library because I use this stuff everywhere on a bunch of computers, right? So then what you would do is go to wherever you have DesignShop. You can see I've got lots of DesignShops installed. So this is actually why I do it. And then I go put it all in the right area. So my color charts all go into color data. My decoratives go under symbols, decoratives. So I paste all of the ones I've made. You can always sort by like the horse because I just saved it now. There it is again. I didn't have to move it over. But you can sort these. Like that's another one I recently did. I actually have to move that over. I'm going to copy it. So copy, I'm going to go paste that in my library. So, oh wait, there it was, decoratives, because I don't believe I put it here. Anyway, so now it's in where I keep all mine. So when I go to another computer, I can copy and paste it. So you've got to kind of know where they belong. Or if you don't know where they belong, that's okay too. So as long as you have the design saved somewhere, like I do, you can open it up. So where's, just like I did with that horse one, I opened it and then selected it, right click, save custom shape, and then put it where you want it to go. So even if you don't know where it belongs, you can open them and resave them. Do you use the same color thread for the bobbin, also in quilting? And do you have a recommendation for a bobbin winder? So I have used the same color, and do I often? It really depends on what I'm doing and how ridiculous I want to be with the designs. So yes, I have wound them. I tend to use the plastic neb bobbins, so NEB. So there's these plastic sided bobbins that you get regular white thread in. And I sew with them on my machines, and I save the little plastic pieces and I throw them in a box. So now I got a stack of empty plastic bobbins, and then I go use a simplicity winder that I found at Joann's years ago, and I wind them that way with whatever color I want. If you use the metal bobbins, they're heavy. So when they trim, you can get a spin on the bobbin, which can cause sewing issues. So that is better to use the bobbin case that has a backlash spring in it, because that kind of stops that spin off during trims. But short of that, I just use the plastic ones. They're lighter and they don't tend to have that issue. And the simplicity bobbin winder has always been the one that I use. And before I got that, I had a home use sewing machine. I would actually wind them on my home use sewing machine, just using that bobbin winder feature. It worked fine. And the last time I did it, I actually used that because I couldn't find my bobbin winder. That's how often I use it. You can also buy pre-wounds from Filtech. So Filtech has pre-wound bobbins in colors. So you can go to Have and Dash and find them there as well. But if you want a very specific color, you got to wind it yourself. Okay, let me scroll back up and see what other things I've missed. All right, so I showed you the fonts. Okay, I think I got all the questions. Yeah, excellent. Any other questions before I call it a day? Now, hold on a second. Yeah, decoratives are my absolute favorite. I'm not gonna lie, I love them. And the new softwares have so many cool ones built in. But then you've got, like, this is another one I did. Leaf line, wait, leaf, where's L? There it is. I wanted some leaves, so I did that. How often do I go live? We try to do it weekly, so I tend to do them Thursdays or Fridays. It alternates because of family schedule. So yeah, that's there. You can do that one on this one. But yeah, what is that called? Yeah, Houndstooth. So yeah. But yeah, we do lives weekly, so it's either on a Thursday or Friday. I'll post a day or two before in some of the groups online, asking for questions. So this, I don't even remember what's next week's supposed to be. I have to travel tomorrow to go fix someone's. I'm a tech as well, so I got to go visit a machine across the state. So I can't do it tomorrow. Next Friday, I'm supposed to be off. So. For family reasons. So, and then Thursday I can't do it. So next week, I guess I'm doing it on Friday because Thursday I'm out of town. So next week will be Friday. Well, it was supposed to be Thursday, but yeah. Anyway, you guys have a fantastic week. I will talk to you then. I hope these are helpful. Like trying to help you guys out. So let us know what you want to learn about and we'll try to get it done. Have a fantastic weekend. And I will talk to you next week. Bye, Rachel. Thanks. Have a good one.